Hey everyone, thank you for taking some time to sit and watch this presentation. Today we're going to be speaking about two themes that I have identified when comparing the standards of the Interstate Teacher Assessment and Support Consortium, INTASC, and the standards of the National Council for Social Studies, NCSS. It is important to mention that the standards I will be discussing today are among many that teachers should know in order to be able to ensure that every student is not only ready to go to college but also be successful in the real world. To start off, the Interstate New Teachers Assessment and Support Consortium, or like I mentioned, INTASC, was established to provide support to new teachers and raise the levels of learning in U.S. classrooms. There are 10 standards, and these standards have been grouped into 4 different buckets: the learner and learning, content knowledge, instructional practice, and professional responsibility. On the same hand, since I currently teach 6th grade world history, when reviewing the specialized professional associations, I felt the one I could most identify with was the National Council for the Social Studies, or NCSS. Now, the NCSS provides an outline of 5 standards that serve as a framework for social studies teachers. These standards serve as a benchmark for programs seeking national recognition. Amongst them are content knowledge, application of content through planning, design and implementation of instruction and assessment, social studies learners and learning, and professional responsibility and informed action. Similar to the vision created by INTASC standards, the NCSS believes that social studies can be made meaningful by connecting curriculum to students' lives and by having students investigate social problems and issues in all of their complexities. In fact, the NCSS expresses that as our society grows more culturally diverse and interdependent, the goal is to help students develop to become informed citizens who use logic and reasoning to make decisions for the public good. When comparing the INTASC standards to the standards stated in the NCSS, I found 2 common themes. First, teachers must bring multiple perspectives to the discussion of content that includes students' personal experiences with their family, community, and cultural norms in order to create a more inclusive and equitable classroom environment. Second, teachers must model curiosity, passion, and mastering the content knowledge for their students in order to create a learning experience that is more meaningful as scholars grasp the content. We can see these 2 themes represented in Standard 2 named Learning Difference of the INTASC standards. This standard encourages that the teacher uses understanding of individual differences and diverse cultures and communities to ensure inclusive learning environments that enable each learner to meet high standards. Here, we can see how this standard encourages teachers to adapt their delivery and lessons to address the diversity of learners in their classrooms. Doing so allows for not only multiple perspectives from students, but it also creates a more equitable and inclusive learning environment. By doing so, teachers are able to push scholars to value collaboration while making the content more meaningful to their lives. Similarly, the NCSS Standard 4, named Social Studies Learners and Learning, states that candidates use knowledge of learners to plan and implement relevant and responsive pedagogy, create collaborative and interdisciplinary learning environments, and prepare learners to be informed advocates for an inclusive and equitable society. As our world develops more and more, our society has become more diverse. It is important that we understand how critical social studies is to helping our students become informed citizens who can make decisions for the good of the public. Our students are the future of our world, and some may become the future presidents, lawyers, soldiers, social workers, and even teachers of our future. This standard also encourages teachers to acknowledge that children holding different identities are a source of sharing and community building. Now, INTASC Standard 4 emphasizes that teachers must master knowing the content. Successfully executing this standard is when teachers understand the central concepts, tools of inquiry, and structures of the discipline he or she teaches and creates learning experiences that make these aspects of the discipline accessible and meaningful for learners to assure mastery of the content. This standard connects to the themes I have identified in that it is the responsibility of teachers to model being masters of the content so that students can adopt these qualities themselves. It is important that teachers must also leverage students' cultural backgrounds to enhance the quality of social studies instruction. Doing so will allow for multiple perspectives to gravitate and provide a clearer understanding of the content. Similarly, The first standard in the NCSS encourages that candidates demonstrate knowledge of social studies disciplines. Successfully executing this standard is when candidates are knowledgeable of disciplinary concepts, facts and tools, structures of inquiry, and forms of representation. The NCSS addresses professional collaboration and data-driven instruction decision-making through Standard 3, which covers the design and implementation of instruction and assessment. It states that candidates must design and implement instruction and authentic assessments informed by data literacy and learner self-assessment. In an era when data is imperative to effective instructional practice, social studies teachers must be prepared to create lessons and assessments that are intended to promote learning and competence in civic life. Additionally, this standard emphasizes that in order for social studies teachers to become data literate, they must analyze student data, classwork, homework, tests, and quizzes. Once done, teachers must use this information to direct instruction and enhance learning. On the same hand, this standard encourages that teachers collaborate with other teachers, administrators, and leaders in lesson planning and decision making to not only improve student outcomes, but also improve their own practice. As social studies educators, we are used to managing different perspectives and working across disciplinary boundaries. It seems logical that we would also seek the different perspectives and expertise of our school or university colleagues. Similarly, INTAS Standard 7 stresses the importance of collaboration and data-driven instructional decision-making when planning for instruction. It explains that when teachers plan for instruction, they must base it on formative and summative assessment data, prior learner knowledge, and learner interest. On the same hand, the standard stresses that teachers must plan collaboratively with other teachers in order to not only adapt to students' needs, but also enhance student learning. Teachers must understand that we are also learners, and as learners, we must take into consideration the input of our colleagues to intellectually prepare and advance our own profession. This comes through collaboration and the use of data. Now, according to the INTAS standards, in order for teachers to assume the responsibility of improving practice and advancing the profession, they must first view themselves as leaders from the very start. Teachers are not only leaders in the classroom, but they also serve as the guides and mentors for all students. Teachers should also understand that they are advocates that assess students' needs and must adapt their teaching practices to meet these needs and improve professionally. On the same hand, the INTAS standards also express that in order for teachers to improve their practice and advance the profession, collaboration is imperative. One of the most important pieces that every campus seems to really benefit from is shared planning periods. In fact, as an educator myself, I find that sharing planning has provided a space for me to master the content, ask questions, and even alter lessons based on ideas provided by my peers. The value of our leadership as educators is based on the value of our thinking. And to be skilled in thinking, we need to be skilled in asking difficult questions. Lastly, the INTAS standard emphasizes that teachers must engage in meaningful and intensive professional learning and self-renewal by regularly examining practice through ongoing study, self-reflection, and collaboration. Active engagement in professional learning and collaboration results in the discovery and implementation of better practice for the purpose of improved teaching and learning. As mentioned earlier, as teachers, we should understand that we ourselves are learners too. We must continue to reflect and adapt our practice to meet our students' needs and intellectually challenge ourselves to continue advancing the profession. Now, after comparing both the INTAS standard and NCSS standards, I myself gained a clearer understanding of how these standards relate to my own values and dispositions. On the same hand, I feel that I have gained some additional knowledge on how to create a more inclusive and equitable learning environment when teaching social studies. It is important to understand that the standards I have mentioned from both INTAS and NCSS are not the only standards that apply to improving practice, advancing profession, collaboration, data-driven instruction, and effective teaching. All of the standards that have been developed have been created as a framework for teachers to improve their practice and student academic outcomes. Again, I want to thank you all for sitting through this presentation. I hope that you all have a great rest of your day.